G'day guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back for another episode of Wasteland Survival. So, in last week's episode, we did a little bit of work to the landing pad for the Atlas, or at least as much as I could get done with the amount of daylight that we had. I did kind of want to get a little bit more done and change a few other things around, but daylight ran out and I wasn't really able to see. Well, I can see what I'm doing, but I wasn't really able to check that the things that I was doing actually looked good because it was obviously pitch darkness. So, that's when I basically decided to head off into space to go and mine myself some gold. And there is a very good reason why I went into space to mine some gold, and I will go through that reason now. Now, obviously, if you guys have seen this series for quite some time, you will probably understand the reason why I am in space mining gold. But to refresh your memory and to go over it for the people that aren't actually familiar with this series, basically the main reason why I'm going into space to mine gold is just because of the fact that on planets the ore veins for gold tend to be very thin. So what ends up happening is you get a ship, like let's say this mining ship here, and it has, you know, 2 rows of drills, and even mining ships with 1 row of drills, the ore vein is probably about as wide as these inner teeth here. So what ends up happening is you end up picking up an enormous amount of stone whilst you're mining that gold. And then what ends up happening is, at least on the ships that I have designed, is that you end up with a lot of excess stone clogging up the cargo containers. So you've really got 2 options when that type of stuff happens. So first of all, you can build a whole bunch of conveyor sorters and ejectors on your ship, and my ship has about 6 ejectors. But obviously because of the 5 drills, it ends up picking up so much stone that I will end up hovering there for about 5 minutes while it actually ejects out all of the stone. And that's, yeah, it's basically a really big waste of time. And then also, to top it off, one other thing is that because we have, or because, you know, this is the Wasteland Survival and we're on the planet Pertam, the ore deposits on the planet Pertam are a lot smaller than they are on other planets as well. So it basically further kind of exacerbates the issue. So yeah, mining in space is going to be a lot easier because the deposits in space, and especially when it comes to gold and other bits and pieces like that, are just much larger, and you don't need to pick up a whole bunch of excess stone. So I think it is definitely a much more efficient way of doing things. So, and you might be wondering, well, why am I going ahead and talking about all this stone and excess stone, and then I'm actually mining stone? Well, basically the reason why I'm doing that is because somebody, well, if you guys remember at the last at the end of the last episode, I was talking about experiencing a little bit of clang around the ship when I was moving it around, and I wasn't sure if there was a component detached. Now, somebody in the comments of the last episode made a really good point. Why don't I just build a projector and project a version of the ship over the top of the one that is existing, which is obviously this ship here. So I've actually gone ahead and I've done that, and you can see the projector here. Now, the thing is that since I built this ship in this series, I've actually updated it ever so slightly. Not a lot, but just a tiny little bit. And mostly that's because of the fact that the blocks that they've added in the game are, yeah, well, the ones, I can't remember which update it was. I think it was the Wasteland update, when they added in all these additional slopes. You can see that I've added in all these additional blocks here. I've gotten rid of these guns here on the front, and then I've added another 2 guns here on the rear. And actually, another interesting point, and I didn't know this until there was a hotfix that was listed. These guns, they used to have a range of about 800 meters, but since the Warfare 1 update, they've actually reduced that to like something like 400 meters. So yeah, that's a little bit unfortunate. They don't provide as much protection as I would like, and when I first designed this ship, I designed it on the basis that they had a range of 800 meters. So at some stage I may need to modify this design and add a couple more Gatling guns to it. Or, well, not a couple more, at least some Gatling guns, because I don't have any existing Gatling guns. So basically, with all that rambling done, the reason why I'm mining stone is because I plan to just update this blueprint while I'm here in space. I might as well just get it done now, so I'm mining a whole bunch of stone so that I can just get all that refined, and then we can build the components that we need to. And I don't think we need too much. We only need a few little bits and pieces to get all of these components done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish off that little process. I'm going to change up these blocks a little bit. Yeah, update the blueprint or the ship to the specs of the blueprint, and then once I've done that, I will see you then. Right, well that is everything welded up now, so the ship is fully up to date. So basically, as I mentioned before, the only real changes was the front of the ship here. As you can see, it has a nice little curve to it now, whereas before it was kind of, yeah, it was kind of jagged. And then also down the bottom here, we also have the same nice little curve. And then I have moved the landing gear back by 1 block, so it doesn't stick out the front as much as what it did before. The other thing I changed was just this little block here. I changed it from this block to that block, and then we added 2 additional guns here, whilst also getting rid of the 2 guns that sat here and here. So then after that, what I needed to do was rename all of these ones so that, you know, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So, you know, yeah, it all kind of matches up. Not massive changes, and overall I think it probably took me about 15-20 minutes to get it done, so it wasn't a big deal. The only issue is when I went to queue up the components to be built via the build planner, it turns out that I ended up with a whole bunch more components than what I had bargained for. So let me see if I can, yeah, so you can see that I've got a whole bunch of stuff here that I don't really need. But at the end of the day, it's only really 9,000 kilos, so it's not a massive amount of weight. And yeah, I guess at least we have some components to build some things if we ever get shot. So yeah, I guess it's not too big of a deal, but yeah. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and start some mining. Now, I don't think I have actually used this ship yet. This is the first time I've used it. Now, I have actually got a design of this ship that I have used before, but this is a totally new design, so we'll have to make sure everything is kind of set up. Isn't that interesting? So, you see those 2 little bits of stone on either side that just got spat out? That's actually a detail that I haven't ever noticed before. So that stone there must be from Pertam, and obviously it's a different color to the stone that is mined from this asteroid here. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I never noticed that before. Then again, I don't think I've ever taken stone with me to space and then ejected it out into space and to kind of notice that in the first place. So we'll kind of have to see how this ship goes. I'm sure it will be fine. I have no qualms about that, because like I said, I have a design of this ship that is very, very similar to what I've used before. And let's just take a look at this deposit. Yeah, so as you can see, this deposit is much more dense than, you know, the deposits that you will find on Earth. So that is the entire reason why I am mining in space. And I forgot to actually mention the entire reason why I am mining so much gold. So basically gold is the main component that is required for superconductors, and the reason why we need a massive amount of superconductors is because the Atlas that we are about to build contains a whole bunch of jump drives. To be exact, it contains 8. So we are going to need, I think it's something like 1,000 superconductors per jump drive. So that means obviously we're going to need 8,000 superconductors, which basically means we need an absolute ton of gold to actually be able to build all of those. Okay, so this was kind of one of the things that I wanted to highlight here. So you can see now we are mining the gold, but none of it, like we're ejecting no stone. So this is exactly what we want. We're not picking up any excess stone, and again this kind of further further clarifies my point and my intention to actually mine in space so that I can avoid gold, well, not gold, so that I can avoid stone completely. So there was quite a bit because I had to kind of break through the edge of the asteroid to kind of get to this point here. But once I got through that outer edge of stone, then it's been pretty good. Like, I haven't really picked up any excess stone apart from what I have on me now. So do I actually have full cargo containers here? I think I might. It's been a long time since I've actually mined with a ship like this, so I'm not exactly sure what the weight of it is when it's full. Okay, so you can see the drills are still a little bit, they've still got a little bit of room here, and it looks like, I think we should be around about the 145,000 kilo mark if I'm not mistaken. So it turns out, I think this ship is probably about 30,000 kilos lighter than its atmospheric cousin, I would say. Let me just have a look here and see where we're at now. Yeah, so I think I'm about right. I think about 145,000 kilos would be about full for this ship, which is pretty good. So, and I believe the thing weighs about, actually, how much does it weigh? About 35,000. So, all up, I think we should be able to get about 100,000 kilos worth of gold out of every trip. And so we should hopefully be able to get ourselves about maybe like 100,000 units of gold every trip, which is not too bad, to be honest. It would take a massive amount of time to do that on the planet. You know, I mean, here it might take 5 minutes, but on the planet it'll probably take me, gee, I don't know, 20 minutes or something like that, something crazy to do that. So yeah, this is very good. Well, let's drop off all of this gold and we can go from there. Although before I go any further, I need to make sure that I turn the refinery off because I accidentally left that on. So that's I definitely don't want to refine the gold because then it becomes so much heavier. Even though it takes up less space, it just becomes so much heavier and it takes up too much inventory space, and it means we'll be able to carry less. Although I guess at the same time it will take up less, but it will kind of weigh the same. So yeah, maybe I should refine it, but I don't know. I'll just take the raw ore back to the base and then I'll kind of refine it there. And then also there is the fact that I've got the yield modules at the base as well. But then again, I've got them on this refinery. Don't worry about it. I'll take it all back to the base and we'll go from there. Well, I've just completed my second mining trip, and whilst I was admiring this view, and just look at this, man, I'll tell you, sometimes this game can be extremely gorgeous, and yeah, this is definitely a perfect example of that. And honestly, guys, I seriously recommend that you download the Space Got Real mod because it just makes the game look so much better. But anyway, the main thing that I wanted to show you guys here was basically just have a look at the size of this gold deposit here. So, and again, you know, I know I'm going on like a broken record here, but yeah, this kind of reiterates why I'm mining in an asteroid. So you can kind of see that this gold deposit here is just so deep. And honestly, like, I can fit my entire ship in here, no worries. And yeah, that's actually a tunnel that I dug with the ship that I'm flying now. So I kind of designed these ships so that they could dig their own tunnels and you could tunnel through, the entire asteroid. But yeah, I mean, the amount of gold in this deposit is just insane when you compare it to a planet. So yeah, I just thought I'd show you that before, I go and mine all of it out. Alright guys, well, I have mined about as much gold as I can possibly carry, not just in this small little mining ship, but turns out in the shuttle as well. So I think I have around about, let me just check my calculator here, I think I've got about 470,000 units, maybe even a little bit more. So I don't know. I think that is enough to build 8 jump drives. I would kind of hope it is enough, but I guess we'll just kind of have to wait and see. So, what the issue is, well, obviously, the shuttle is completely full, and then also what I've done is I've completely filled the mining ship. Now, if I wanted to, but I don't think I will, what I could do is I could go ahead and I could actually refine some of the gold that we've just picked up to try and save myself some cargo space so that I could then cram some more gold ore in. But I don't think I'm going to do that. And basically, as far as I am aware, and if my calculations are right, then this ship, not the mining ship, but, the shuttle itself should be able to carry somewhere in the region of 205, is it 205,000? No, 2.05 million kilos in Pertam gravity, because it has 24 small thrusters on the bottom, which works out to be about 24 meganewtons. You divide that, or no, not, yeah, 24 meganewtons. You divide that by the gravity of the planet, and it works out to be somewhere along the lines of, 2.05 million kilos. And at the moment, we're at about 149,000 kilos. So yeah, what I could do is I could go ahead and I could refine all that gold, and then what that'll do is it'll compress it down into ingots, which weigh more but take up less space. So I could fill it all the way up to about 200,000 kilos, or 2 million kilos, or whatever the number is. But yeah, like I said, I don't think I'm going to do that because I kind of hope that what I have mined is enough. We'll get rid of this projector because we no longer need that. But before we go, let's just go and have a look at how big this ore deposit was. So yeah, you can still see that there is quite a fair bit of gold left here. Now, a lot of the mining deposits for gold on the planet Pertam were probably about that tall and about as big as this space here. And I struggled to fill all of the cargo containers on the atmospheric mining ship. So yeah, it just kind of gives you an appreciation to how much gold you can kind of get from an asteroid. And like I said, we haven't even mined the whole thing yet. I reckon there's probably about 700,000 or 800,000 units of gold in this asteroid, easy. Maybe even close to 1 million, but I mean, yeah, that might be pushing it a bit, but still, I mean, So yeah, definitely worth going to space to mine some gold. Well, with all that said and done, and all the gold in that asteroid in our cargo hold, well, the majority of it anyway, I think it is time to leave this place and head on back to base. And seems like Clang is still trolling me, but you know what? Yeah, so you can still kind of see, yeah, can you hear that sound? So something is still clanging around, but I don't know what that is. Now somebody else actually in the comments said that there could be a little block stuck somewhere in the front of the ship or something like that, and that might be what's causing it. And before I started this episode, I did have a little bit of a gander around, and I couldn't see anything, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't anything there. I just couldn't see anything else. It was definitely a good idea, but yeah, I mean, I just couldn't see anything there, so... Alright, well now we start the long journey back to the planet, and then we can take all this gold, put it into the refineries back at the base, and go get all this stuff converted into ingots. Like I said, I could have done that in space, but that's right. We'll do it back at base, and yeah, so I think, yeah, we should have enough gold. I hope we have enough gold. Otherwise, I will kind of regret my decision not to refine all that stuff in space. Anyway, guys, I'll see you once we get to the planet. Right, well, we've almost reached the planet now, so I guess I should start by turning on the brakes and try and get this thing aligned to the landing pad. And you can see the ship is a little bit more sluggish than usual just because of the sheer amount of weight that we are carrying. And I'm kind of hoping that since the last update, the industry update, where they made a lot of changes and improvements to the inertial dampeners and ships docked up to the larger ship, that yeah, we have a much easier time of it. So let's see how we go with this, because the last time I did this whole procedure, I had, you know, I was carrying those hydrogen tanks on the front, and the front of the ship was just kind of sinking down just a crazy amount, and it was kind of like, yeah, it was kind of getting a bit silly, to be honest with you. So I'm kind of hoping that we can just, yeah, go straight down and not have to worry about the front of the ship sinking down a lot, and we can just, yeah, kind of, yeah, go straight down without having to readjust it every 5 seconds. So let's see how we go with this. Now what I want to do is turn off my bottom thrusters here. So I believe it is this one, so we'll turn those off, and then we will basically just power straight down to the planet and see how we go with this. So I'm hoping that I am reasonably straight in terms of, like, yeah, well, basically level, I would say. So it seems like we're not quite level. So let's get ourselves level here and just see what happens if I leave the mouse alone. And yeah, I don't know. It's still, you can kind of see it's still kind of dropping down at the front. So yeah, I mean, it is better, but it's still not 100%, so I'm still going to have to sit here and constantly readjust and pull up the front of the ship to make it fall down flat. So yeah, kind of spewing about that. I was really hoping that they had definitely fixed that issue, but it seems like for the most part they haven't actually done that. But I guess, are we drifting backwards? I think we are. Yeah, maybe... Wait, hang on. Oh, yeah. It's probably because we're not actually falling down level, so... Alright, well, I'll sink down to very close to the landing pad, and then we'll kind of go from there. Alright, well, I was almost at the planet when I kind of realized that there is a Crimson Tormentor there. Now, if you guys remember... At one point in the series, we actually came across one of these guys, and that was the massive ship that we basically. What's he doing? It looks like he's gonna fall and crash. Yeah, that was the massive ship that we actually went and salvaged. So I really don't want to go near that guy because that is a massive ship and he can cause a lot of damage to us. So if I go within 5 kilometers of us, he's just going to full on YOLO us. And that's really not going to be a good day. Although it looks like he's kind of... I don't know what he's doing. Looks like he's really struggling to kind of stay afloat. I know the last time I seen one of these guys, and just before we actually went ahead and we salvaged the wreck of that ship after we took out all of its turrets, I did see it just crash down onto the planet at 1,000,000 miles a minute. Because I think he didn't have enough thrust going where he could actually keep himself aloft. So, I got two options here really. I can basically just sit here and wait until he disappears. The only problem is though that I am using a little bit of my thrust to basically hold my position here. So I'm kind of hoping that he disappears rather quickly. Although it looks like he is actually coming towards us. So what I'm going to have to do here is burn back up into space and wait until he passes before I can actually go ahead and sink down to the planet and land. So yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I tell you guys, every time I try and land on a planet or exit a planet, I see a Reaver. But any other time, you just don't see him. Well, I guess there was that one time when we were trying to mine for stuff and we seen one, so yeah, there is that. And interestingly enough, it seems like we are actually rising straight upwards. So yeah, maybe they have kind of fixed the inertial dampeners and maybe they haven't. I think maybe what they've done is like they fixed them in terms of like when the bottom thrusters are active, but when you're falling, then the inertial dampeners aren't fixed yet, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. It kind of makes sense to me, but yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. Alright, well, I'm going to exit the atmosphere and get myself fully into space, and we'll see what this guy does. And I'm just going to have to wait until he passes, because this ship with a couple of interior turrets is just no match for that thing. And I'm probably going to lose all the gold and all the resources that I actually mined trying to take him on. And yeah, he's just way too much of a powerful adversary to try and cope with right now. So yeah, we'll just wait until he passes and then we'll just go from there. Alright guys, well I was kind of sitting here and just waiting for this guy to disappear, and I'm still a little bit in the gravity well of this planet, but I think the amount of fuel that I'm going to use to stay here is kind of negligible. But what I was doing just before is I was actually checking this guy out and just having a bit of a gander at him. So what I'll do is I'll control this turret from the bottom, and yeah, just look at the size of this thing. And keep in mind, that's large grid as well, so that thing is just massive. And I think you can see that there's like 2 Gatling turrets on either side there. I know that there's at least 3 or 4 on top. There's another 2 on either side of the body. So what's that, like 4? There's at least 10 Gatling turrets on this thing. Not to mention the ones that are all on the bottom. So yeah, I think honestly, even in the Atlas, I probably wouldn't even take this guy on. I think the only ship that I would take this guy on, that I have at least, is the Manticore, because that's a heavy armor ship and I armed that thing to the absolute teeth. So, although, what's he doing now? He kind of seems to be sitting there and not moving. So, is he like crashing down? I don't think he is. Hang on, let's just control this turret again and see what he's doing. Control. So, it looks like he's burning out of the atmosphere and towards me. What? I thought that's what he was doing. The weird thing is, I don't have any turrets or I don't have any antennas active, so technically this guy shouldn't be able to see me, but I have a feeling that he kind of can. Although it kind of would have come up on the console that he can actually see me, so I don't know. Really don't know what to do about this. The only time he's really going to disappear is if he gets out of my range. So I think that's like after about 15 kilometers or so, but it looks like I might just have to... Alright, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to basically bail completely. So I'll turn off my thrusters at the front and we'll just kind of burn away from the planet and in just any old direction until I get to a point where he kind of despawns, and then we can just come back to the planet later. And hopefully he actually does despawn and he doesn't just kind of like... yeah, like stay there and then I come back and there he is again. And in fact, another thing that I've noticed is that my fuel seems to be sitting at 96%. Now, oh, wait. Oh, I'm looking at the gauge on the left, which is for my jetpack fuel, instead of looking on the right, which is the fuel for the ship. That was a silly mistake. Well, I guess at least the bright side is that I noticed my mistake before I completely ran out of fuel. That would have been bad. Alright, well, I'm going to burn away out of this guy's range. Hopefully he despawns and then we can continue on and get ourselves back down to the planet. Right, well that guy's finally disappeared now, so I've ended up just burning back to the Pertam entry point. Now, another issue that's kind of arisen because of, you know, all the time that we've wasted just waiting for that guy to disappear is now, you know, it's kind of getting to be dark, as you can kind of see. So the base is obviously where all those GPS coordinates are, but yeah, obviously I kind of want to get this ship down to the ground while it is still daylight, so hopefully we can sink down to the planet fast enough to do that. So I think if I drop down here, then I should hopefully be pretty reasonably well aligned. So let's drop down about as fast as we can, and hopefully we don't run into any more Reavers or any other things that I don't really want to run into, because yeah, I really want to try and land this thing before nighttime, because yeah, trying to land this thing during nighttime is going to be an absolute pain, and that's something that I really just don't want to deal with. So alright, I'll see you guys once I get a little bit closer to the planet. Alright, so we're about 3 kilometers from the planet, so now I think it's a good time to turn on the thrusters and try and slow down a little bit. I've managed to come down relatively flat, but what I'll do is I'll disable the thrusters again and I'll try and get myself a little bit closer, although I've got to be pretty careful when I do this because obviously we don't want to crash the ship. So let's turn off the ore detector because I don't really want to be distracted by that either. Alright, I think that honestly is probably close enough, I reckon. Alright, so now I think what I'll do is I'll just use the downward thrusters to kind of push the ship down, because I don't want to let the thrusters go or turn off the thrusters on the bottom and then just let the ship fall like I have been, because I kind of risk crashing into stuff when I do that. Another thing I found that was a little bit interesting was that when I was kind of coming into land, I noticed that right near the entry point to the atmosphere of this planet, some sort of SPRT Mayday signal has kind of spawned there. So yeah, I probably could have gone ahead and checked it out, but yeah, like I said before, I kind of wanted to get this thing down onto the planet as quick as possible while we still actually have a little bit of daylight available. So let's see how good my flying skills are in this situation. And let's hope that I don't crash the darn thing into the landing pad. Level up a little bit here. And then we'll straighten up a bit. Now I do have some lights on the bottom of this ship now, but they're not the greatest. So they are basically just corner lights. So they're not really that great, to be honest with you, at lighting things up. But it should hopefully be enough to kind of get us in the ballpark. So hopefully we can get this thing kind of centered a little bit here. Alright, so it looks like the rear landing gears are kind of centered. Now what about the connector? Yeah, it looks like the connector's all good. That's connected. I can't really see what's going on at the front. It looks like I'm not quite straight. Alright, that should do, I think. Alright, let's lock the connector down. Number 6. And now let's lock the landing gears. And let's turn off the thrusters. And let's go ahead and check our parking job. So, let's see how we did with our parking. Now, unfortunately, I was really kind of hoping to land back on the planet with some daylight so that I could start editing the base a little bit more. But, oh well, what do you do? So, maybe what I'll do is I'll kind of skip ahead and we will fast forward until it is daylight again. And as you can see, my parking job is pretty perfect. Having this connector here and being able to pivot off that with its magnetism makes it so much easier to get this ship lined up. I mean, look at that. That's just absolutely perfect. That is awesome parking, if I do not say so myself. It's a tiny bit off, but hey, I don't think it's worth crying over. So now what should be happening is all of the gold that we collected should be feeding into the refineries and getting all refined up. So let's go into the refinery room and just confirm that that definitely is the case, and we don't need our lights anymore because we should have plenty of light around. And I will try not to vent the oxygen of the base while I enter. Right, let's see how we're going. Yep, cool. So if we go into here, let's see exactly how much gold we have. So I think we have about 620,000 gold. Now, if that isn't enough to build 8,000 superconductors, then I will be extremely surprised. Well, like I said, I think I'm going to wait for all this stuff to be refined. And I will skip ahead until it's daylight, and then we can kind of finally finish off this landing pad and maybe even think about building a printer. So yeah, that's the next step. And then after we've built a printer, then from there we can finally build the Atlas. Alright guys, well I'll see you once it is daylight. Righto guys, well as you can see it is clearly still nighttime, and I thought, you know what, I was kind of messing around with a few things. I redesigned a few little items on the ship, just kind of like the back end, and then obviously as you can see I've set up a whole bunch of different lights around the landing pad, because I thought, you know what, I might as well take advantage of the fact that it's night time and actually go ahead and yeah, kind of like mess around with the lighting for this landing pad. So I was playing around with a few different designs, and so first of all I just wanted to point out one thing. So what I really ideally wanted to do was use these interior lights. Now these interior lights have a radius of 20 meters, Whereas these corner lights here that I've set up on these neon tubes here, they have a radius of only 10 meters. So ideally, to light up the biggest amount of area, you would want to use these. But I can't really find a way where I can kind of make these work. And obviously, as you can see, I've set up these ones here, these corner lights on top of these neon tubes. And I think they look quite nice. It makes them look like kind of gives it that street lamp type vibe. Now the only thing is, I'm not sure if I want to raise these up one more block or if I want to leave them like that. Maybe I want to change the color and things like that. The only issue is though that by using these lights, they don't really get to the center of the landing pad. Although I don't really think that is a big problem, because the main issue with these landing pads is that, well, let me just kind of fly up into the air here. The main issue is that I just can't see it at all. So if I can kind of see the outline of the landing pad, then I think that should be good enough. So I think what I'll do is I'll kind of focus on putting the lighting on the outside, and I won't really worry too much about the lighting that is in the center area of the landing pad. And in fact, maybe what I can do as well is I could even change the color of these to the same color that all of the accent lights are. So let's find our corner lights here, and then let's exit. Let's go back a bit and see how that looks. Yeah, that doesn't look too bad, although maybe I want to make it a little bit less orange. I don't know, but, or maybe I could just kind of make it, yeah, I know my energy is critical. Maybe I could even just make these maybe just a slight yellow color, but not so intense. So maybe like, maybe we could go, we kind of want to make it like a very slight yellow color. So maybe something like that. Yeah, I think that looks alright. But anyway, whatever kind of color I choose to make it, I think that's definitely going to work out pretty good. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure on these. I do really like these things, so I think this is the way that I'm going to go. But there are a couple of other options that I could go with here. So just to kind of mock myself up, in fact what I'll do is I'll just get myself a cheeky bit of energy here. Yeah, that should do. That should be enough to kind of demonstrate what I was talking about. Right, so I've set up a couple of little demos here of a couple of the other things that I had thought about doing. And obviously, as you can see, this is kind of one method. So what I've done is I've just added in these new blocks here, which is these industrial pillars that they added in the last update. So these blocks, and obviously this is just kind of like the 2x1 slope. So I'm not exactly sure if I like this idea. I think it's just kind of like a little bit too bulky. So to try and alleviate that bulkiness, what I attempted to do as well was kind of create this like kind of bulbous area to try and like make it look like it fits. Alright, let me just go get some fuel to start off with. Right, now, as I was saying, I tried to create this like kind of bulbous area, I would say. I can't really think of a better word than that, so we'll just go with that. But I don't know if I really like that. And the other thing as well to remember is because the radius is bigger, I don't really need as many here. So yeah, I don't know. I really don't. Yeah, I don't love this idea here. It just doesn't really look right. And then obviously over here you can see that I've got my interior light in the center of this kind of neon tube, and that doesn't even look right, because it would look better if it was kind of at the top. And then the other thing is the back of the light kind of sticks out, so it just, I don't think it really looks any good. So I'm kind of spewing that there is no block that kind of goes halfway up, or maybe even just to there and then put it there. The other option I've got is I could put interior pillars up here, and then I could put the lights on top of the interior pillars, but I kind of want the light to go that way, if you know what I mean. I don't really want it to be all the way up here. So yeah, I really don't know. And then obviously over here I've gone through another couple of options that I could have gone with. So I could have gone with this option here, which is having these lights on, again, these beam blocks, and these are obviously the 2x1 tips. So I wasn't sure if that was the way that, yeah, I don't know if that's going to be the way that I'm going to go either. So yeah, just been playing around with these lights for a little while, and I just thought I'd show you guys all the little bits and pieces that I've kind of been toying around with. So I think what I'll do is I'm probably going to go with this method here, and then also what I can do to kind of dress it up just that little bit more. So you can see at the bottom here I've chosen to use the neon tube ends, so it looks like these cables are kind of going in here, and then we have, like, you know, all of our little wires running up. And then a further thing that I can do is I can grab the neon tubes again, and we can have a look at these corner bits, and we can place them there like that. And if I just quickly weld these up, you can see how these are going to look. And of course we don't have the components on us. I should really be more prepared when I hit the record button, yeah? And hopefully we can get there before I run out of power. We can see what this looks like. Yeah, so you can kind of see that this tube kind of rises up and then bends around and goes into that light. So I think that's honestly a really, really nice look. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to replicate this design across the landing pad, this entire landing pad, and then the other landing pad as well. And then we'll kind of see how it looks after that. And then maybe what I can do as well is I can do this every second light, and then I can do that on the outside. Oh, and one other thing I forgot to point out was that on the end here, because this is an odd number, I've had to go 4 blocks this way, 3 blocks, 3 blocks, 3 blocks, and then 4 blocks, whereas these ones here are just 4 blocks, 4 blocks, 4 blocks, 4 blocks, 4 blocks, 4 blocks, and obviously 4 blocks, you know, spacing in between all of the lights. So yeah, I kind of forgot to mention that at the start. So yeah, anyway, I'll go set up all these lights and then I'll be back. Alright guys, well I'm back and I have finished placing the majority of these lights, but I think I'm going to have to continue this on in the next episode. I thought I would show you roughly what it looks like just before the sun fully rises, and as you can see, this is kind of what it looks like. It's a bit hard to see because obviously it's, you know, it's beginning to get to daylight. So but I think I have a reasonably even coverage of light over this landing pad, and I really do think that these lights, these little what would you call them, kind of light stands, look really nice. They kind of look like street signs. So obviously though, I really want to change the color of these because I'm not 110% happy with the color of those. So I might just go ahead and adjust the color of them to maybe like something like that. So I think that color there is not quite black like what, let's say, so let's go for a total black and let's see what that looks like. Yeah, so I guess there's not really that much difference. Yeah, this one kind of does look a bit more like a steel color, so I think that's going to be the color that I'm going to go for. But anyway guys, I'm going to end the episode there. and in the next episode I should hopefully have all of this lighting finished, and then we will move on to getting these kinds of things sorted for all of the legs, and we will finally get this landing pad done. And then from there I'm going to play around with these pipes just a little bit more, run another pipe to the connector for the Atlas, and then we can also run a conveyor pipe to a printer that we're going to need to actually build the Atlas in the first place. So we have lots of work to do. So anyway guys, I will see you in the next episode. I really hope you enjoyed this episode of Wasteland Survival, and if you did like this episode, then consider leaving us a like, and don't forget to subscribe so that you do not miss another episode. Alright guys, I will see you next time.